So after the C9 versus T1 game, I went on Reddit and scrolling down the comments like you do, all I see was Shinobi's bad. Oh wait, yeah, Shinobi's bad. Oh, yeah, Shinobi's so bad. Man, I wish 10's had a better team. Shinobi's bad. That was the comments. Scroll down, everybody wants a retooling of the roster. So in this video, I'm going to look at players that C9 could sign or poach from other teams and rebuild their roster. We're going to look at a soft rebuild and a complete overhaul, 100 Thieves style rebuild with 10's. So let's get it started, boys. So C9's current roster has Shinobi, the IGL, and Reddit, Twitter. Everybody hates on this guy. Twitch chat, so it's a lot of monk S's. People don't like Shinobi, but let's give props. Let's give credit to where credit is due. Shinobi is a good IGL. You can see the setups, you can see the executions that Cloud9 attempt to do. You know that he knows his guys. I think his teammates have a good relationship with him as an IGL. I think they trust him. I think it's just his performances are so lackluster. If we look at the rest of the roster, we have Vice, Mitch, and Relics. I think Vice and Mitch are very good support players, but they can be inconsistent at times, but not as inconsistent as Shinobi. Of course, Relics has been performing out of his mind lately, and especially in the UMG closed qualifiers, he's been performing really well as that second fragger for Cloud9. 10's, we don't really need to talk about 10's too much. Everyone knows he's the best player in North America. Everyone knows he's probably just the most gifted fragger in Valorant. The problem is how are we going to enable him to win, to be a consistent performer? His teammates are not at his level, and I think a lot of people know this. Cloud9 has a weakness, like fantasy picks or my predictions for a soft reset for Cloud9. So obviously we're going to replace Shinobi, like I said, because of his inconsistent form, his early deaths in the round. Even though his strategies are good, his teamwork is good, I bet his communication is good. Only on C9 because he's the IGL. It's kind of a shield. But if Cloud9 are going to make a reset or a reboot for C9, they're going to have to replace Shinobi. He's the weakest player on the team. This is just obvious facts. We've seen it multiple times. People defend him with the whole thing like, well, how are you supposed to IGL, manage the team, manage the rotations, and still get frags? Well, a player who does do that is Depth. Depth on Dignitas. Depth is a fantastic IGL, probably just as good as Shinobi. He comes in the big moments for Dignitas. I watched a lot of games where Depth will come through as a top fragger with Cypher or Killjoy to lead his team to victory on maps like Ascent, on maps like Bind. I've seen it multiple times. He even plays the Agent Phoenix on occasion, showing that he can frag out. And a bonus with Depth is he actually played with 10's during the CSGO days for Cloud9. So Depth has a link with C9. This would be an obvious improvement for the Cloud9 roster if they sign that man as IGL. So let's talk Vice. I personally think Vice is a great player. I think he's a very good clutch player. But if we want to see a drastic improvement in C9 and getting players that can get more kills and be a consistent performer, I think we're going to have to replace Vice. Vice in this new C9 agent composition plays SOVA and Breach. And you know who plays those agents very well? It's that guy Profi. Profi from PUBG. Profi from Moon Raccoons. This man is a very consistent performer. An excellent performer on SOVA. An excellent performer on Breach. If we look at the stats here, 237 average combat score with SOVA with 1,000 rounds played. Profi is basically a veteran of Valorant right now. Posting up 923 kills and 133 first bloods with SOVA. He's a very aggressive SOVA. He plays SOVA well, has great lineups. He would be a great improvement for the Cloud9 roster as that support player to help frag out with relics and 10s. This would be an obvious improvement, and I can see Cloud9 poaching Profi, but he's proving himself by jumping to bigger rosters, and I think C9 would be that big roster he deserves. So my soft reboot lineup would consist as relics still as that entry fragger, 10s as the superstar jet, Profi as the SOVA breach, Mitch as the killjoy cypher, or the omen. I think depth would have to take on the omen role, but this would be an enhanced roster for C9. I think this would improve a lot of consistency issues and fragging issues. So remember when 100 Thieves decided to blow up the roster and just keep Pico? What if Cloud9 decides to do that with 10s? Take out Mitch, Relics, Vice, and Shinobi and just have 10s. What would that look like? JC Stani. We see him IGL this new Immortals team, and he's taken them to first strike. JC Stani is a consistent performer throughout 2 iterations of Immortals. He's a fantastic smoker and cypher player, so he can add adaptability to this new Cloud9 squad, to this fantasy roster. I do see JC Stani making that jump to Cloud9, to that bigger brand. Now with this super overhaul of C9, I would think Cloud9 would look for an operator specialist. Now realistic targets for Cloud9 to pick up an operator specialist would be OHAI from Complexity. Complexity has been a team struggling to compete with the top tier teams in NA. We got Pure from Xset, another fantastic jet opper. And we also got Shanks, who's a free agent, who subbed in for Immortals during the closed qualifiers and did very well for himself. I think a lot of people don't like Shanks due to his attitude, but he's an 18-year-old kid who's pretty cracked in this game and has a very good jet operator. And I think, you know, if Shanks played with depth before, if depth is the IGL, I think depth can get the best out of Shanks. But in my opinion, I don't see Cloud9 going for Pure due to Xset just beginning as a roster, and I don't see them picking up Shanks due to negative attention. So I do see OHAI from Complexity jumping ships to Cloud9. C9 OHAI. Now what does this mean for 10s? I think 10s can play the Reyna, the Rays, and I actually truly believe that with OHAI on the jet, it allows 10s just to focus on rifling and have a dedicated operator with OHAI, and then also you can have a double operator set that would be more superior than a Mitch and 10s double operator set that C9 has run in the past. So if we look at OHAI's stats here, he's played over 1,000 rounds, so another experienced Valorant player in competitive play. He mainly uses jet. His average combat score is at 214. So you're looking at a player that puts up stats like Relics, but an operator specialist, unlike Relics. And he has 161 first bloods, so we can see that he's going to have a lot of opening picks with the operator. And I think this is something that is missing in Cloud9. Versus T1, we saw the dominance of Skadoodle with the operator. We see TSM with Wardell. We see 100 Thieves with Dicey, and we see Sentinels with Shazam. I know 10s is that flexible operator and rifler, but I think a dedicated operator for Cloud9 would be more beneficial than 10s swapping from rifle one round and an operator the next round. I do truly think that it makes them unpredictable, and that's definitely a bonus. But if they can have a jet main on their team, especially because jet is a meta pick in competitive play, this would bolster the roster tremendously. So finally, this would be my fantasy team, my overhauled lineup. OHAI as the jet, 10s as the Reyna, Profi as the SOVA breach, JC Stani as the omen, and depth as the cypher killjoy. Now this would be a stellar team. I think this team, if Cloud9 was already a top 3 team before with their current roster, I don't imagine this team. This team would be cracked in my opinion. I think the stats they would put up, the consistency they would put up with depth as the pillar of consistency with his leadership, I think this team would be ridiculous. But comment down below on what you guys think about this overhauled roster or the soft reboot. Do you prefer the soft reboot or this new 5-man roster with 10s?